Good day, students. Welcome to our first history lesson. And the history lesson is going to be on the transatlantic slave trade. So basically, trans means across. So the term transatlantic refers to across the Atlantic Ocean. So in this section, basically, it's work from term 2. We'll focus on West Africa before the arrival of the European traders, the nature of slavery in the West Africa before the arrival of the European traders, slavery in the American South, the impact of the transatlantic slave trade on slaves, the impact of transatlantic slave trade on economies. So at the end of this section of work in term 2, you should be able to understand the hardship suffered by the slaves, discern the arrogance of slave masters, appreciate slave culture through music, understand the anger that led slave revolts, describe the escape procedures, should be able to appreciate the role played by rebel leaders, and understand the effects that slavery had on economies. So, in this lesson, I'm going to cover the West Africa before the arrival of the Europeans and the nature of slavery in the West Africa before the arrival of the European traders. So West Africa before the arrival of the European slave trade. So before the arrival of the first Europeans in West Africa in 1400s, there has been advanced and powerful civilization in this part of the world. We learned that in term 1, Mali and the city of Timbuktu and West Africa had become very wealthy by trading with Arabs from North Africa and the East. The societies were highly advanced. There was strong political control, and they had powerful armies which conquered neighboring communities and incorporated them into territories. As you know, Timbuktu is a World Heritage Site. Many slaves were bought in West Africa by Arabs in the trans-Saharan slave trade. It is estimated about Arabs enslaved about 11 to and 18 million Africans over the course of a few hundred years. We're gonna do this activity in class together, but I'm just gonna skip it and then I'm gonna quickly go to what we're gonna be doing. All right. So the nature of slavery in the West Africa before Europeans. So as we know that slavery was part of everyday life in West Africa, African society long before the arrival of European traders. Egyptians used slaves to build their pyramids. Tribes in West Africa enslaved captives when they conducted wars and raids against one another. Slaves became symbols of wealth. Land was owned by the community, and many slaves were needed to work on the farms. Some of these slaves were criminals or people who were not paid their debt. Most of the slaves had certain rights. They could marry, they could inherit goods from their owners, they could have slaves of their own. But after the 1600s, slaves that were taken to America were treated more harshly. Slavery had by this time become big business. Right, we've come to the end of the lesson.